Signs in the Heavens, the Crucifixion of Jesus, a story according to the Bible. The sun stood high in the sky above Jerusalem. It was midday, and the city buzzed with Passover activity. Merchants called from their stalls, priests busied themselves in the temple, and pilgrims from near and far gathered in celebration. But just outside the city walls, on a hill called Golgotha, the place of the skull, a scene of heartbreak and holiness unfolded. 3 crosses stood on that rugged hill. On the center cross hung a man unlike any other. He bore a crown of thorns, his face bloodied, his body bruised. His hands and feet were pierced with nails. This was Jesus of Nazareth, the miracle worker, the teacher, the healer, the one called Messiah by some and blasphemer by others. On this day, the very one who created the heavens and the earth was being crucified by his own creation. From noon to darkness. The Gospel of Matthew records, from the 6th hour until the 9th hour darkness came over all the land. Matthew 27:45. At noon, when the sun should have been at its brightest, darkness fell over the land, not just for a few moments, but for 3 whole hours. This was not a solar eclipse. Passover always occurred during a full moon, making an eclipse impossible. This was a supernatural darkness, a sign of divine mourning. Nature itself responded to the death of the Creator. The birds quieted, the winds stilled. People stopped in their tracks, glancing uneasily at the darkening sky. The light of the world was being extinguished, and the world knew it. The cry from the cross. At the 9th hour, around 3 p.m., Jesus, now weakened and struggling for breath, lifted his voice and cried, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. Mark 15:34. My God, why have you forsaken me? It was a cry of anguish, not of despair. Jesus was quoting Psalm 22, a prophetic psalm of suffering, a foretelling of his very death. In that moment he bore the weight of every sin, every sorrow, and every shame. And then his final words, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Luke 23:46. With that he breathed his last. Silence hung heavy in the air. The temple veil torn. At the exact moment of Jesus' death, another miracle occurred, this time inside the temple. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. Matthew 27:51. This wasn't just any curtain. It was the veil that separated the Holy of Holies, the innermost, most sacred place where God's presence dwelt, from the rest of the temple. Only the high priest could enter it, and only once a year to offer sacrifices for the sins of the people. The veil was massive, about 60 feet tall and several inches thick. No human hand could have torn it. But it was torn from top to bottom by the hand of God himself. Why? Because Jesus' death made the ultimate sacrifice. No longer was access to God limited. The way was now open for all people from every nation, tribe, and tongue. The earth trembled. As the veil tore in the temple, the earth began to quake. The earth shook, the rocks split. Matthew 27:51. The ground beneath Golgotha trembled, cracks tore through the streets. Massive stones split, people screamed, running for cover. The Roman soldiers staggered in fear. It was as though all of creation was reacting to the death of its creator, mourning, groaning, and trembling. The death of Jesus wasn't just a historical event. It was a cosmic disruption. The graves opened. Then something even more astonishing happened. The tombs broke open, and the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. Matthew 27:52-53. Graves outside the city split open. Saints of old, prophets, righteous ones were raised. After Jesus' resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. It was a preview of the resurrection power Jesus held. Even in death, Jesus brought life. The centurion's confession. Among those witnessing all this was a Roman centurion, a hardened soldier, likely accustomed to executions. But what he saw that day shattered him. The darkness, the earthquake, the cry from the cross, the way Jesus died. Surely this man was the Son of God. Mark 15:39. This soldier, a Gentile, proclaimed what many Jews had refused to see. A foreigner recognized the divine in Jesus, the true identity of the man on the cross. The women at the cross. Near the foot of the cross stood Mary, Jesus' mother, along with Mary Magdalene and John the beloved disciple. Their eyes brimmed with tears. Their hearts ached with unspeakable sorrow. Mary watched the son she once held in her arms now hang in agony. John clung to Jesus' final words. "Woman, behold your son, behold your mother." John 19:26-27. Even in death, Jesus cared for his loved ones. The silence of the tomb. As evening approached, Jesus' lifeless body was taken down from the cross and laid in a borrowed tomb. A large stone sealed the entrance. Roman guards stood watch. The world fell silent. But heaven was not done speaking. Because the most powerful sign of all, the resurrection, was just 3 days away. What do the signs mean? The signs at Jesus' death weren't mere natural occurrences. They were divine messages. The darkness, a symbol of judgment, of separation, of the gravity of sin. The veil tearing, the end of separation between God and man. The earthquake, a cosmic confirmation of Christ's authority. The open tombs, a preview of resurrection and victory over death. The centurion's faith, the beginning of the gospel spreading to the nations. God was not silent. He spoke through nature, through miracles, and through human hearts. The death of Jesus wasn't a defeat. It was a divine victory unfolding in mystery. 3 days later, victory. On the 3rd day, the stone was rolled away. The tomb was empty. Jesus had risen. The darkness was overcome by light. The death was swallowed by life. The silence turned into song. Conclusion, heaven's voice on Calvary. The crucifixion of Jesus was the most significant moment in human history. At that moment, heaven and earth collided. The signs weren't random. They were precise, powerful, prophetic. God wanted the world to know. This was not just a man. This was the Son of God. Through the signs in the heavens and the trembling of the earth, through the veil torn and the graves opened, God declared, "This is my Son whom I love. Listen to him." Amen. God bless you.